like, I know a lot of you guys don't like him, but did he really not ask anybody if they were going to leave with Harbaugh? Essentially, he hired a guy that on the open market would have landed himself a group of 5 job to come in and be a head coach and hire a brand new staff his very first time at the University of Michigan. It is such an unbelievable train wreck.
Man, that was in April. Guys, what's up, fellas? Good to see you. I'm just down here working on Monday's show, and I figured I'd pop up live and talk to you guys in the chat about what we saw yesterday. You know, we go into these weeks where the slate doesn't look fantastic coming into it, and we say to ourselves every year, and Dan and I were just talking about it the other day, 3 years, but say it every year. You know, it's weeks like these. This is when there's all the chaos. It's usually not. It's usually not what. And it wasn't yesterday. It wasn't chaos. I think we learned a lot. We saw some fun games. We saw some competitive games, but no big upsets. In fact, the only 2 ranked teams that lost to other ranked teams that were ranked lower than them. So nothing fantastic, but we did look. We did see a couple of teams who came out as big winners. Oregon beats Oregon State in the Civil War. They put it on them. They put it on them big time. Has Oregon figured some things out? The offensive line definitely looked better. That's for sure. They put up over 500 yards of offense. The explosive plays, I want to say, like Dylan Gabriel, all 4 of their top receivers, three of their top backs, they all went for like a play of about 20 yards, some of them more. Dylan Gabriel had a 54-yarder or something. One of their backs had a 74-yarder. It was just big play after big play after big play up in Corvallis as Oregon busted Oregon State. And not only that, but that defense of Oregon's that had been getting kind of diced up, they really they put the hurting on Oregon State. Ryan Day's Beard says Oregon State is just that bad. Where'd he go? That was my impression too. I got the same impression. But just like the Buckeyes playing inferior competition, we can also look at them and say, you know what? They're playing great, and that performance last Saturday would have beat almost anybody at this point in the season. I think we can also look at that Oregon team and say, okay, maybe they are getting some things together. It definitely caught my attention. That's for sure. Dago thinks Scum looks like hot trash, and so does Sherrone.
Sure, what happened with Davis Moore's 3 receptions, and how would you evaluate the quarterback situation right now?
Yeah, I mean, just can't have him. Put the ball in harm's way too many times. So made a change, and we'll continue practice, see we'll go from there.
This dude's in over his head, man. He's in over his head. He's got a 1,000-yard stare. He knows he's in for a long season, as we all did heading into this thing, and nobody wanted to believe us. But pretty hysterical what's going on over there. They look really, really bad. Yeah. Bradley says he looks in over his head. He does. Absolutely. Rod says, anyone else thought South Carolina was going to blow out LSU yesterday, and they blew it. They did. We saw their quarterback, Lenoris, went down. He was looking really good, and LSU found a way to scrounge their way back into it. They end up getting the win. A couple calls went their way in the end there, but I felt bad for South Carolina, man. Those are fans that are starved for a big-time win, and they would have absolutely loved that. So that would have been really cool to see South Carolina pull that out. But it does bring up another question. We've been talking about USC and how good USC has looked, and USC's been getting a ton of respect based off the back of that 27-20 win against LSU. Is it possible that LSU is just extremely average this year, and that win that USC had against them at a neutral site really wasn't that big of a deal? The following week, USC goes and beats Utah State, shuts them out 48-0, and people are talking about that shutout. That's the same Utah State that fired their head coach 2 weeks before the season, a team in total disarray. So have we really seen anything from USC yet? I don't know, man. I'm not so sure if we shouldn't pump the brakes a little bit. on USC. However, yes, as Dago just reminds me here, and I'm sorry, guys. It's I just woke up, to be quite honest. I was up late watching the very late games, but USC going up to the big house next weekend. It almost slipped my mind. They're going to start Alex Orji, it seems, right? I mean, they pulled Davis Warren. They brought in Alex Orji late. Sherrone very unhappy with Davis Warren's 3 interceptions. I was reading their comment section on their 247 page this morning, pulled up a couple of comments. My gosh, man, they are in disarray. They are absolutely in disarray. 6 wins at best. USC will win by 3 touchdowns. I mean, they're not feeling too hot. Not feeling too hot about their odds next week. Definitely not feeling about their good about their odds against the Buckeyes. And they shouldn't. The funny thing is, man, this was all so easy to predict. It was all so easy to see coming. And they, for some reason, we went over this all season with them, just thought that this was the exact same coaching staff and things would continue to keep rolling. The funny thing is that video that I played on the Scarlet and Blue show with Garrison and Bryce goes on to admit in that video he thinks that this season's going to look good, but it's the next season where things are going to look pretty bad. So according to Bryce himself, it's next season that they're going to be even worse than this season, and we'll see what they can muster up for the transfer portal. Ryan Days Beard says that fan base has absolutely walked it back from the preseason, and oh boy, have they ever. And that's what's so obnoxious, right? You know, they talk all that crap the whole off season, and all of a sudden slinking back from what they were saying. It's something to see. Ken Dog says USC is actually better on defense. They're making tackles. They are the real deal. Ken Dog is a believer in the Trojans. I think next week will be a heck of a test for him for sure. I just don't know, man, that LSU team. I do agree with you. Danton Lynn has done a good job. And I compared it to kind of Jim Knowles in year 1 coming in, maybe just kind of plugging the hole enough in the Ohio State defense that the offense could really shine because the defense was just a little bit better. And Danton Lynn seems like he's maybe done that at USC. Granted, they don't have anywhere near the talent that those Buckeyes did. So I don't stress them, right? But as far as the rest of the Big Ten, I think they definitely should. Does Oregon jump back up in your guys' eyes after yesterday's win? Or is Oregon State, you know, you're not really buying it? I felt like the offensive line played quite a bit better. But we got some big-time losers yesterday, obviously. To my left here, the state of Florida, 2/3 of it. Florida State and Florida. Billy Napier, after the game, man. You know, I've bagged on Billy for a long time. I actually felt quite bad for him. I felt quite bad for him. He gets into the press conference and they essentially ask him to make his case, right, for him to keep his job. And he basically he didn't really do it. You know, he went on about how he understands that we need to produce more, and he feels they've made a lot of progress. Obviously not on the field, but he thinks behind the walls they've made a whole lot of progress. And I believe he genuinely believes that, and maybe they have, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough at Florida. It's definitely not good enough for the amount of investment that they have put into Billy Napier and his support staff, which is massive. He's just not good enough, and that's just it. So he'll be gone, and I think it'll happen very soon. And you never like to see anybody get fired, but you know, the problem was hiring him in the beginning. So my opinion of the Georgia game is exactly what I was talking about. Georgia is not that dude. They're not that dude. They just aren't. This is not that Death Star Georgia team in the first national championship. I don't even think this team is as good as the year we met them, and we went blow for blow with them. Now, were we better that year than we were this year? We had C.J. Stroud, and he played an unbelievable game. But we will go blow for blow with that team. And I got to tell you guys, I'm slightly, if I'm a Georgia fan, concerned about whether or not Kirby can rein this team in after a loss like that, the way he used to be able to. And I think when I talked about yesterday with the driving incidents, the fact that he cannot get these guys, and we saw another one Thursday, 106 miles an hour, another one get arrested. The fact that he cannot get these guys to not disrespect his program, teammates, university, community. He can't get them to listen to him. And that is not just related to the driving. That will manifest itself in some other way. So does it manifest itself in the fact that Kirby won't be able to rein them in? Kirby loves moments like this where he gets away with the little, hey, mom, with the little sneaky win. And he got himself a little sneaky win. Now he gets to go, and you saw him on the sidelines last night, absolutely obliterating his guys. And he gets to go take this and give them some, humble them and kind of start from scratch with them. And it usually works. But is it going to work now as well as it used to? Or is there a decent portion of that team that is not really on board with the Georgia way like they used to be? I don't fear them. I really don't. I want them. I want them bad. Oh my gosh. Mom says that was crazy sad for Billy to face. Mom, it was very sad for Billy. Mom's very sensitive. She's a real crier. I get that from her. Ken thinks UGA will bounce right back, but they have 3 tough road games. They absolutely do. They go to Texas, they go to Bama, they go to Ole Miss. They got Bama in 2 weeks, a bye week first, I believe. I think they're off next week. So definitely. We also had a couple of the dubs that got rough weeks, as Washington lost the Apple Cup to Washington State, which I did not think they would. I had them picked, and I went 4 for 5 on my picks on the weekend. Started off hot out the gate. I did have Alabama minus 16 against Wisconsin. The poor Badgers, I was rooting for them hard, and that was one of my top 15 games of the year heading in, because I really thought the implications would be so huge if Wisconsin could do good in that game. Tyler Van Dyke goes down in the first possession of the game for Wisconsin. And from there, we knew it was over, but to be honest, it wouldn't have mattered much in my opinion anyway. Jalen Milroe was fantastic. He had accounted for 5 touchdowns. The athletes that they got on that Bama team, Ryan Williams, by the way, 17 years old. He's the other, well, it's more than him. You have Ryan Wingo, Cam Coleman at Auburn, and him to go along with Jeremiah Smith. Freshman phenom wide receivers. This is the best set of freshman wide receivers I think we've ever seen, and it goes deeper than them. They're just, and this is kind of the thing I was talking about with my Chris Carter argument, that these dudes are, from the time they're 12 years old, they're like programmed little robots. You got these crazy athletes, and then they're getting them into wide receiver training at a young age. Chris Carter didn't have any of that. Like that guys from that era, that's just all on them. And you get dudes like this, and we're seeing it more and more, even in this next, well, the class of 2025, not so hot with the wide receivers, but we're seeing more and more of these just insane wide receivers. And a lot of it has to do with training them. Ryan Daysbeard said, what's going on with Quinn Ewers? He had an abdominal strain from what I heard. So a rotational issue, and they've got some pretty bum opponents in the next couple of weeks, which means there's no need to rush him back. I think we're going to see a lot more of Arch, who went for 223 and 4 total touchdowns yesterday. You can definitely feel how much they want him in Texas. The fan base, they love him. And it's just amazing after the game that Quinn just had against Michigan, which wasn't a huge stat stuffer, but he just basically did everything right, everything that they needed to win. They all just love Arch so much more. And I'll tell you, he's good. I'm impressed by him. He's not a guy that I was a total hater on him coming out of high school. I did not think he should have been the number 1 quarterback watching him at Newman High School in Louisiana, which is small competition. I thought it was all about the name. I thought he was a solid 4-star kid. And watching him now at Texas, he's athletic. He's got a great arm. He seems to have a great head on his shoulders, which shouldn't be surprising because his dad's awesome. I love his dad, the oldest of the Manning brothers. Great sense of humor, really cool dude. So not surprising. Dago says Tyler Van Dyke is a soft batch cookie. He is indeed. That's a dude that's been injured a lot. And I am somewhat surprised that Luke Fickell hasn't been able to do a little better, a little faster at Wisconsin. They've got a whole lot of support with NIL, something that's not talked about much, but Wisconsin, Fickell got some buy-in, and they've got money there at that university. I didn't really see him spend a whole lot in what I would have figured to be the right areas. And I would have thought that after, in year 2, he'd have been able to do a little better than this, look a little better against Bama. But we'll see. We'll give him another year. I just don't think this Bama team is that good, but they're going to be a real solid number 4 this week. Heard some people saying that they think Texas should jump Georgia because Texas jumped us, so now they should jump Georgia because Georgia struggled against Kentucky. I think last week with Texas jumping us in that number, jumping us for number 2, just had more to do with rewarding Texas for a big win and not really jumping us. And I like what they're doing kind of with the AP poll. Not that it really even matters, but it's just something for us to talk about. But they're being a little more fluid than they used to in the past. And it's more merit-based. And I like that. I've always wanted it to be like that. There are always going to be some, discrepancies as you look down the board. But for the most part, I think we're seeing them be a little more reactionary. And I kind of like that. Do they move Oregon back up? They had dropped Oregon down considerably. Do they pop them back up? Mom loves this shirt, and anybody can get one of these if they join Juck on Bucks membership on YouTube, or you can order them at Columbus Apparel Company, our sponsor. Columbus Apparel Company, a fantastic company that supports the show. And we love them. Tom and Beth and the folks over there at Columbus Apparel Company. You can get all your screen printing done at Columbus Apparel Company, whatever you want for a family reunion or your business or anything. They do a great job. They will make sure that everything's done properly. There's a whole lot of companies that do screen printing. I've worked with a lot of them, and most of the time they suck, could not possibly care less, and you get one shot, man. Take your time, work with some people that care, work with ColumbusApparelCo.com. Damn, that was slick, bro. I'm going to send him that one. It's a good one. Ken says everybody pays for rosters now. There's no doubt about that. Eric thinks Kyle McCord looks really good at Syracuse, and he does. And I was on a podcast with some Miami dudes the other night, and they were kind of asking me, they're like, we can't understand why you guys would want Kyle McCord out of there after the season he had. And I think he represents the national kind of opinion on that. And they just, they didn't get it. But we see Kyle McCord with Fran Brown, a guy that he's comfortable with at Syracuse, a place with not a lot of pressure. And all of a sudden, he's emotional on the sideline. He's talking trash. He's come out of his shell. He seems to have some confidence. Kyle McCord in high school was a bit of a gunslinger. He didn't play like that at Ohio State. He didn't have that emotion. He had a stone face. Kyle McCord on this team, I think that this is a situation where every party won and everybody has, it's the best for everybody, for Ohio State, for Ryan Day, for Kyle McCord, for Will Howard, for us, and for Syracuse. Like, everybody won. So I don't even think there's any reason to rehash it. You know what I mean? But Alabama versus Tennessee is going to be wild. And boy, Tennessee on the come up. And another thing I mentioned the other night with those guys, Tennessee, I think now we have to admit that Josh Heupel, now if he can continue this season looking like this will be the second season where he's had a really, really high quality team at Tennessee. They've got a ton of support. He's officially a dude as a coach, right? Like, there's no denying it anymore. You can say when someone has a one-off season and then they drop back down, okay, it was a one-off. But if he does it again, and the way their recruiting's been going, he's officially a dude. And I think that they are absolutely a big-time threat to win the SEC, to make the playoffs almost certainly. And they got it going on. They're just destroying people. Obviously, some crappy competition yesterday, but, they put it on them. Absolutely put it on them. When is Ohio State going to play a real deal opponent? Well, next Saturday, we got Marshall. Not sure we consider them a real deal opponent, though we will do a preview of the Marshall game. Then we got Iowa. And Iowa, which has a garbage offense, but they're trying to do better. They're really trying really hard, always with a solid defense. So if nothing else, we'll be able to see our offense get tested against a good defense. We'll be able to see our offensive line against a good defense. And these are things that we're going to want to see. We're going to want the coaching staff to want to see, to be able to adjust from. So, whether it's an exciting game or not, we'll definitely get some good work out of it. And that's exciting. It's also going to be a big recruiting weekend. And there was a big recruiting weekend, guess where? Florida State, where our dude TJ Alford was over the weekend. TJ Alford, Buckeyes linebacker commit, fantastic linebacker out of the state of Florida. And people thought there might be some momentum heading to Florida State. There was some footage that came out of Mike Norvell's warm embrace of TJ when he got there for his official visit. And boy, it could not have gone worse in any way, shape, or form for Florida State, as they look terrible.
As we continue to work and continue to pour into each other and the opportunity we have.
All right, thank you, Coach.
You are to leave the building by the nearest exit or exit stairway.
That's Mike Norvell's press conference. Fire alarm. What do they call it? 5-way fire alarm or something? Yeah, get out of the building. So terrible. Florida State 0-3, and it's not just DJU. Cautionary tale of the transfer portal, man. You live by it, you die by it. They lived by it last year, and they went 13-0, got left out of the playoff, and then everybody quit for the bowl game. Something like 39 guys didn't play. And this year, they went and got another bunch of NFL talent in the portal, and you got a bunch of guys that could not possibly care less about Florida State. So this is what happens, and it is definitely a cautionary tale. I think that he will start to change his ways. Guys, I wasn't really doing a show here. I just popped in to talk to you, but we've got 5 alarm. There we go. That's what we call it. Okay. I've struggled with my internet on these lives from time to time, and it looks like we got a big problem. Mikey, what's up, buddy? So Mike he lives in Texas, I believe. And he was with Riley Pettijohn over the weekend, went to Riley's game. Mike from the Fans Edge, check him out. Awesome podcast. He was with Riley Pettijohn, tweeted a picture with Riley, and got to talk to his parents. And I can't wait to hear what he has to say about that on the Fans Edge. So check him out, and I'm sure he's going to update us on how that visit went. But that was really slick. Riley's a beast, man. So speaking of linebackers in the class of 2025, Riley Pettijohn, our guy, TJ Alford, and Eli Lee, both of those guys been on Juck on Bucks and talked to us. And, they'd like to come back and join us in the post-game show. They want to come back and pop in one night on the post-game show and kind of give us their view of how the Buckeyes played. They're really keying in on those linebackers, which is pretty cool. Do we got a troll? I don't know. Anyway, so Ole Miss looking good again. Jackson Dart looking good again as they mollywopped Wake Forest. Maybe one of the better games of the day, though not very exciting. Boston College went into Missouri ranked 24th, and Missouri ranked number 6th. it started off pretty hot. Boston College took the lead. It was somewhat back and forth. Luther Burden is fantastic with the ball in his hands, man. Yards after catch, that dude is fantastic. 6 for 117 for a touchdown, and that touchdown was pretty legit. Moving on in the top 25, Miami killed Ball State 62-0. And with the state of Florida and Florida State right now, Miami is absolutely grinning ear to ear because things are looking really, really up for them, looking bad for the other two in the state of Florida. His name is Eric. There we go. Okay, Eric is gone. Doug Zilla, what's up, buddy? Oklahoma was in a game with Tulane through halftime. Tulane, though, a pretty quality school, pretty good team this year. They played Kansas State really tight last week, and then they go in and Norman played Oklahoma pretty tight. Jackson Arnold, not a very hot game. He rushes for a lot of yards sometimes, and he did yesterday. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I wouldn't have stuck with Dylan Gabriel if I was them. But really, I think they understand that they don't have much of a shot to win much of anything this year. Notre Dame with a statement game. Notre Dame plays an awful Purdue team yesterday, 66-7. They pulled up. I mean, that was a game that I actually thought we might see a pretty tight game. I was kind of looking forward to it, and that certainly did not happen. Nebraska beats Northern Iowa 34-3, but a great game, a great day of college football. We did have, not any upsets, but we did have a lot of close games, and that was great. Rod says Tulane's coach could be Kentucky's next coach. And Brad asks, is Stoops leaving? Our guy, Mark Stoops from Youngstown. He is, Rod says, on the hot seat. The UK fans are fed up with him, which I find ironic. Rod's right. There is a big section of UK fans that are fed up with him. Yesterday, he had a shot last night to be aggressive. He turtled up, punted in plus territory. They were absolutely furious. And it's things like that that they can't stand. He made some comments that really pissed them off last year about NIL, and they came off really bad. It was actually after the Georgia game last year. He made some comments about, you want us to be more competitive, give us some more money. Oh, Mike says he got drunk and tweeted about a kid. I missed that. Yeah, totally missed that one. I'd like to hear some more details on that. But Stoops, man, he's raised that program so much. I mean, in our lifetimes, we've never seen Kentucky be anything. These guys have been good under Stoops for the most part, at least competent. And he's done it off the backs of Ohio football players, which, to be honest, it's a smart strategy. We watched D'Antonio do it. Those second-tier guys that don't get the Ohio State offers, Kentucky absolutely pounds Ohio. In fact, just watching this on Friday night, Walsh played St. Ignatius. Walsh got a really nice-looking wide receiver, Milan Paris. He's 6'5", made a sweet touchdown catch. Kentucky after him. And that's what they do, man. They go get those guys that go to camp at Ohio State, visit, kind of right on the border, and they just pepper them with offers. I think in this 2025 class, they have, I think I listed off 6 or 7 Ohio kids in a 22-man class. And Vince Morrow tweeted about Demarion Witten when he chose Ohio State over Kentucky. According to Vance, he was very bitter. Vince Morrow is the top recruiter for Mark Stoops in Kentucky, and another Youngstown dude who does very, very well in Kentucky. Dave says Kentucky looked great. So the thing is, Georgia didn't play fantastic, but Kentucky straight up whooped them up front. Like they were blow for blow with them up front, which gives me a whole hell of a lot of confidence when we match up against them. That same Kentucky team up front got destroyed by South Carolina's defensive line. Destroyed. So, what's that tell you about Georgia? I don't know. But Dago's right. Stoops did not coach to win. Ken asks, where's our running back that transferred to Kentucky? He broke his hand and he's been out. That's Chip Trainum from Akron Hoban. And they destroyed East on Friday night. Looked really, really good. Doug Zilla says he loves Vince Morrow. Used to be one of his coaches. And he remembers when he was salty about that. Demarion Witten, just a 3-star guy, vastly underrated. Vince probably thought he had a real diamond in the rough, and absolutely devastating. Eric says, my wife took my Juck Eyes shirt. She will not give it back. She says it's too soft. So soft. It is. It is very soft. Terry says Georgia overrated. I think that we still got a situation here with Texas, Ohio State, and Georgia in kind of a tier by themselves, with Bama kind of maybe right below them, and maybe with Ole Miss kind of right there in that next tier. But those three at the top, I think, belong at the top together, and I can't wait to see them play in some capacity, however that breaks down. Obviously, we're going to get to see Georgia and Texas. I would sure love an Ohio State path that goes through both of them, to be honest. I want everybody this year. I want the best of the best. That's what I want. Yeah, Brad thinks Bama and Ole Miss in that tier 2. I guess the question is, like, we were including Oregon in there. Are they able to work themselves back into that? Brad also wants to take on the best of the best this year. I want this to be the leave no doubt. This has been Ryan Day's slogan throughout this. Leave no doubt. I want this to be the leave no doubt year. That Ohio State was the absolute dominant team in college football. They went through the hardest path that there could be, and they dominated college football. And that's what I'm hoping for. I want them all. I want them all. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get back to work on tomorrow's show and get a workout and then settle in for our NFL games, which I'm not crazy interested in, but, football's football. So appreciate you for popping in with me on a Sunday morning to have a little half-hour chat about yesterday's games. We'll get into them a little more tomorrow. We will be going live tomorrow morning for the Monday morning show. So join me then tomorrow morning. We're going to kick that back to 9:30 just to give my pipes a little more time to warm up. It's not so easy for me in the morning. It's as much a symptom of getting older, I guess. But when I pop on early in the morning, it's really a struggle to get it going. So thank you, Doug Zilla, Doreen, all my friends, Eric, Rod, Dago, everybody, Ken, and you, Mom, of course, as well. I will talk to you guys tomorrow morning at 9:30. Juck on Bucks out.